Well, hello, everyone. I hope you're having a happy Monday wherever we are reaching you, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening. My name is Libby Davis. I'm an MBA program manager here at Forte, and I'm just so thrilled that you're joining us here today to learn a little more about what we can all do to make our LinkedIns a little bit more special, happy, sparkly, all the above. It's going to be a great discussion, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. For those of you who maybe haven't engaged with Forte before or who haven't attended this series, this event is part of Forte's Career Coach virtual series, and it's really meant to help you take charge of your career wherever you are in your career journey. So these interactive workshops are led by experts in talent acquisition and career development, and they're really designed to equip you with the tools, strategies, and insider insights that you need to land your next big opportunity. So very excited for our conversation today. And speaking of experts, I'd like to introduce you to our featured speaker today, Diane Fenig. Diane brings more than 25 years of career. Oh, sorry, Siri was listening to what I was saying. But anyway, Diane, she's really fantastic. I'm thrilled that she is here today. And she brings more than 25 years of career development and management expertise in the university environment to executive search and leadership development. She joined Gallagher Executive Search and Leadership Advisors, formerly the Human Capital Group, in 2009 to incorporate her work with her keen sense of talent as a senior consultant. Diane has earned degrees from Marquette University, Miami University, and the University of South Carolina as foundations for her role as a career connector and educator. She serves as a guest blogger for the Society of Human Resource Management in the areas of recruitment, retention, and employee satisfaction. She has enjoyed over a decade of work with the Business Management Leadership Institute, both as a facilitator and a class lead. So with that, Diane, welcome. I will let you take it away, and I'll see you a little bit later.
All right, I will share my screen and we're going to get some really good stuff started right now. We've got a poll to get this action moving. So, with that, let's have a poll start. And the poll basically is grade yourself right now. Give me a sense of where you are with your LinkedIn, how you would do a self grade. And it always helps me get started and see where everybody's at. So, a little self grade to start us off. All right, let's see this, Teresa. Let's see what everyone's saying. All right, we've got some B's and C's going on today. Okay, there we go. A little bit of work that's helpful. Thank you. Appreciate your honesty, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and do it. My favorite title for this is The Seven Deadly Sins of LinkedIn that I'm going to show you how never to commit. All right, so there's 7 easy things you can do. And what I'm going to do is highlight what they are and give you kind of some homework. And I'm going to tell you right now that I'm going to put a special offer in the end of this day. So just listen up. First up, profile picture on your LinkedIn. I just care about this, what you look like right here. As I was telling the ladies ahead, I'm in red because we're celebrating our Super Bowl win. Isn't that what we do today? What's your profile picture? If you don't have a good one, someone can snap one with your camera. You don't need to go have it professionally done anymore. But I do want a good profile picture of who you are, and I want it to be relatively current. Very, very important that you're greeting me with a smile when I find your LinkedIn. Then there's a picture behind your picture. I call this the photo or the cover photo. The default on LinkedIn is kind of a gray, blue, gray lined design thing. Please change that out and add a picture behind that. Think about the picture, and if someone says, "Why did you choose that picture?" be able to answer that. So it's not a test question, but I just really want people to think about how you represent yourself with that extra picture behind your picture. Third thing, create a unique URL for your LinkedIn account. This goes back to how you registered originally with LinkedIn, which is probably a while ago. So go back to that and change that to make it a unique URL for you without that series of letters and numbers behind your name. Maybe adding a middle initial will make yours unique. If you have a common name, most people can make it with just their name, maybe putting a designation behind it with a CPA because you've earned that degree, or an MBA, or whatever. So take a minute to create that unique URL. I see people who use that as LinkedIn users. Then below your name and your picture, there's a billboard that sits. LinkedIn will give you a default one of your current job. I don't love the default because that shows me that you really don't know what you're doing with this, because you haven't gone out to change it, to update it to who you are. Are you an aspiring summer intern for the summer of 2024? Are you seeking a new marketing opportunity in digital? What are you doing? Why are you here? What's your purpose within LinkedIn? So changing that billboard, you have a tweet, so 180 characters to create this billboard message. So think about, what do you want it to say instead of that default, which is your current job title. What are the details? Again, back to the guts of registering for LinkedIn. What are your details? Where did you say your location was? And many people want to put their specific area in their location. I'm like, well, here's why you don't want to go that specific. I have a LinkedIn recruiter profile. I can't share what that looks like for you, as I've promised LinkedIn I wouldn't, but I can define how we see this. So I live in Atlanta, but I specifically live in Marietta. But Marietta is just a small community north of the city. I would put Atlanta as my area because that's kind of the metro area, and 50 miles outside of the metro area would keep my location open if something was happening 50 miles from here. That location feature, we've changed that a little bit with remote work, but many organizations unfortunately forget that the default always goes to their company address and 50 miles from that company address. So something you just need to think about and know. If you want to move to a new city, do you change that location to say that new city? Because that's where you want to be, helping me understand the why. You can put your LinkedIn profile under a function, as a kind of a job function, or under a job category. You figure out, you can't do both. You have to figure out which one you'd want to do. Do you want to put it under accounting, or do you want to put it under automotive? You decide. But you only get one place to choose. And that's where your LinkedIn kind of resides as the overall. So those are some details I want you to go back and look at your LinkedIn registration form, that registration piece, your profile, and just make sure that's all in the right place right now. Real important. Then my favorite section that most people forget is the About section. The About section is where you do keyword searches, and we all love using keyword searches. We love doing strings of keyword searches when we're looking for someone. So here's how you can tell your story in that About section. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you say, I was born here and raised here, unless that's a part of the story. Give me kind of your work context. Where are you? What are you doing? Someone the other day said, I started my collegiate journey thinking I was going to do this, but now I want to do this, and here's why. I'm like, love that. Help me know that in the About section, because I might see a disconnect. But in the About section, you clarify that for me. And so then I want to connect with you. So as you write this up, what I always suggest is people kind of copy and paste it as a Word document, then put it in there. And make sure all the words that define who you are and that define the path you want to be on are included in the About section. Extra bonus, the final statement in the About section, I would suggest you say, should you like to connect with me, please use, and then put your email address. And here's the why. If I'm not a first level connection to you, I can't drop you a job posting. I can send you an email, but you won't read them because they're all salesy and nobody wants to read them. So unfortunately, in mails, while everyone sells that as a bonus, it's not what people want. So it instead, if you send me a Gmail account, I can drop you a job posting and say, if this is something of interest, let's connect by phone Friday or Monday. Then I have the ability to connect with you. And then after that, maybe we do connect on LinkedIn. Some recruiters don't want to try to connect on LinkedIn if you're not interested in their role. So all those things are important things to put in your about section. You've got 2,400 characters here. You can do a couple paragraphs easily. Then at the bottom of LinkedIn is the interest section where you can note companies you're following, thought leaders you're following, industries you're following, institutions. Fill that out. And here's the why. Because I want to know kind of what connection points are. I was telling Libby and Teresa earlier, last month, they introduced me with where I got my degrees, which usually is not a part of it. People reached out and said, oh my gosh, I went to that institution. So people want to be connected. They just want some place where there's a connection point. And so with that, use that interest section so that you can connect with somebody, along the lines of common interests. We want to find spaces where we connect. Where are our commonalities? It's just part of human nature. You can fill that in and do that within your interest section. And then the other thing, and I just want to say this really strongly, and I know people have been looking at me this morning before this session on LinkedIn, because of course we all get those crazy pings. Don't just hit the connect button. Drop people a specific invitation to why to connect. I met you in the LinkedIn session this morning with Forte. I'd like to connect here. I've got a really specific question. I'd like to connect here and have a few minutes to ask that of you. Absolutely the right way to do this. You meet someone after a session, take the time to connect with them. LinkedIn is not a one and done. It's one of those things that you're constantly working on building, and connecting with people now, a few years later, might be a connection that could be really helpful to you. But do it respectfully and do it right with a very focused note. My contact information is here, and the offer that I am making stands as Friday of this week. So between now and Friday of this week, if you have a current resume and a LinkedIn profile that you've done some of these changes to, and you'd like me to look at the two of those documents together, I'm going to do the first 10. So connect with me. I'm going to say connect with me through LinkedIn and ask for one of those 10 spots. And one of the reasons I asked for the resume and the LinkedIn profile is I want those two to be consistent. So often people's LinkedIn profile is out of date, and their resume is more current, or the dates don't jive, or things are missing. And I'm like, which one's right? Nobody wants to be in that conundrum of which one's right. They should be consistent. So I will not touch this. I will not look at any of this until Friday of this week, but I'm putting 10 offers out there to review your LinkedIn profile against your resume. And with that, Libby, I gave you my 15 minutes, as I always told you I will. What kind of questions do we have from this group today?
Oh, I am so excited because we already have some in the Q&A.
Yeah.
So let's go. Alrighty. So one person is saying that they've seen some LinkedIn cover photos that include the person's name and contact info and like a short sentence about them. Would you recommend this approach to that photo, or is just any photo preferred?
I've had people say it looks like they put a billboard up and it looks desperate. I've had some bad vibes against it, so I'm just saying I've had some bad vibes. I think you can put that information in your about section in a better way. I had somebody. It was great because I was looking at it with another recruiter and I said, "Give me some feedback on that," and they said, "I don't like it. That just looks desperate." I'm like, okay. I always like to ask. Now, again, I haven't asked thousands, but I do want people to think about what's the message there. What's the message? And so we want you, why do we want to get, so, because really the question to me is, why do I want to get to know you? Not you just gave that to me in a billboard. Why do I want to get to know you? So let's ask the deeper question, which I think is more important. But
No, that,
great question. Great point of clarity.
no, I'm glad you mentioned that because I too have seen that and I was like, oh, I wonder if I should change my background image. So thank you. Um, we have another person that is asking, could you share some examples of powerful headlines that you've seen on LinkedIn?
So help me know what it is you're looking for. So many people right now are looking, kind of towards summer for internships. Tell me that you're an aspiring summer intern. If you have a summer internship already locked in, that would be kind of cool to say incoming summer intern. So I know that you've already locked into summer. So I know to start talking to you about what's your full-time roles after that. When you're trying to shift gears, which I think is where a lot of people will put in their using that headline to help me know that there's a shift, then explain it further in the about section. Because so often people are saying, instead of doing this, I want to do this. Just help me know the difference. Help me know what you're looking to do. And I want it to be something that gets my attention, not in a bad way, in a good way. So I wanted to get someone's attention. And I think you have to do is ask people, is this off putting to you? And get some feedback, because I think it's always important to get feedback from folks. And then it's always tough when you're currently working for an organization. How much can you put out there so that your current organization doesn't realize that? Again, the about section, so it's not in your face when someone looks at your profile. They've got to dig in a little bit further, but you might be able to explain that differently in the about section.
No, that's actually a great transition. We have someone that is wondering if there are any examples that you know of or that you go back to that are best practices for the about section specifically.
So I don't put it out there, because here's what happens. It's a cut and paste party after that. So I don't, that's why I don't say go follow this, because it
Hmm.
really becomes a cut and paste party. Instead,
Gotcha.
I want people to really figure out what's the story I want to say. And the about section is not a cover letter, not a letter of introduction. It's got components of it, but it doesn't look like that.
Yep.
So I tell you, I don't want it to look like a cover letter where you just inserted what you need, because that's not what I'm looking for. I want more of a narrative of who are you, where do you want to go?
That makes sense. That makes sense, Diane. And we have another really good question because I have this question too. This person is wondering if you have a degree like an MBA or an MPH or an MS, would you put that behind your name on LinkedIn?
Yes, absolutely. Let's go ahead. Let's put it up there. Yes, keep those credentials. No, I mean, it's because so many people need someone to have a CPA
Absolutely.
for the
Yes.
thing. That is an incredible, honor to have made that. And again, if that's part of your scheme, absolutely do it. And there's no shame in doing it. Absolutely not. Good
I
stuff.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree. You worked really hard for that degree, so you
Yeah.
should absolutely be telling everybody about it, in my opinion. Um, okay, another question. Does your resume and LinkedIn profile have to be the same? This person was told that the LinkedIn profile should be shorter and more concise.
I'm okay if it's shorter and more concise, but it's got to be consistent. So a lot of times things are missing. And so when things are missing, and again, when I'm in front of a recruiter, when I'm in front of a hiring manager who says, all right, Diane, you shared this resume with me. It doesn't match the LinkedIn profile. Which one's right? That's not a good place to be. So as long as they're consistent, you're okay. You can make this shorter. You don't have to put all the bullets to it. But I want it to be consistent. I think that's the key piece to it.
That makes sense. That makes sense. These are such good questions. This person is saying that they customize their resume for each position that they apply to. How
Absolutely.
should they handle this if it differs from their LinkedIn profile?
So again, as long as it's consistent by dates and the kinds of things that you're covering, you're okay. But I understand the customization. Again, when you get into that bulleting, it might look different. So maybe you keep the bulleting off of LinkedIn, but you're still consistent in how you note the journey.
Yep, That makes sense. This is another one that I think is a great question. Diane, what are your thoughts on the looking for work banner? Does it help recruiters? How do they perceive it? What are your thoughts?
Everyone's all over the board with it. I got when it first came out, we used to have briefcases. Then it came to this, green banner, and people were like, "It's desperate." But then other people said, "You know what? But it's reality. People are looking for work." And so many people who have lost their work are struggling with to be seen, and it's a way to be seen. You have to figure out how you feel about it, kind of thing. I don't know that there's a right answer on this. Um, if you were part of a corporate riff, I think you explain that in, how do you tell that story in your about section? That it wasn't, that wasn't on your own, that you said, "I'm ready to leave." The organization said, we're not doing this anymore. We're moving in a different direction. Therefore, this division has been eliminated. Helping people understand your why for being in the workplace, I think, is important in that. Um, I don't have a, one answer fits. What do you feel comfortable doing? And I find that recruiters, since we've been through everything since 2020, are a lot better at gaps in employment, because a lot of people had gaps that they didn't plan for, but none of us planned for a pandemic in 2020 either. But now HR is getting a little bit back to that red pen and connecting the dots. And I worry about that because we're still in a space where people have lost their work, it's not by their work. It's just they lost their work because there's a new direction in the company and the organization, and they're not a part of that direction.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really helpful. We have another question here. This person was told by their career counselor that they need to include adjectives about themselves, like strategic or reliable, in the tagline. What are your thoughts on that?
That you can do that in your tagline. Just know that you have a limit. You can't make your tagline 3 paragraphs long. So and there's other places you can use those words, especially in the about section.
Yeah.
I mean,
that makes sense.
I do want action words. I want those. I like those. But be careful, because you've only got a limited space for that, billboard, if you will. So let's make sure that we're using that billboard space properly.
No, that's a good perspective on that. This is another question I've had. Diane, what are your thoughts on how often to like post or react to things or
Beautiful.
engage with things on LinkedIn?
That's beautiful, because I had a seg. That was one of. If you didn't have any questions, that was going to be one of my segues. So, LinkedIn is not a one and done. So I would suggest kind of weekly carve out an hour where you go in and look at LinkedIn and you commend people for being promoted, or you give them an atta girl, atta boy for what they've been doing. That kind of stuff is important, that you're commenting on people's posts, but you're also posting things that you think might be of interest to the LinkedIn community. So I think it's important to do that as well, to be kind of an active user. And anybody who's looking into your background can see what kind of activity you've had. So I do want people to kind of stay active with it. And again, things happen and your resume changes, or you just got an award. Make sure that you keep your LinkedIn up to date. You don't need to notify me every time you make a change, though. There's an option where you can turn that off, because otherwise, Chase changed her picture. She changed her job posting. I was like, I don't need to know all of those. I don't think I need to know all of those updates. So I would say turn those off, and that's all within your LinkedIn registration.
No, that's great and very helpful to know how to approach it, because it can be a lot. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So we have another great question, and honestly, maybe the last one, just given our time for today. But this person is wondering, can you speak to recommendations about the level of depth that's appropriate for the job experience section? For example, should you copy or paste from resume bullet points or do more of like a summary of work?
So whatever you'd like to do. If you just want to do your on LinkedIn, if you just want to have your job titles, but often the job title needs a little bit more. And I do like when people kind of explain kind of industry, because sometimes people don't know like what this organization does. And I like that kind of explanation of that. You got to figure out what you need. But if you start doing it with your most current roles with no bullets, but then the later roles you have 10 and 12 bullets. I'm like, wait a second, that's off balance. So you do want to keep that on the balance side too, if that makes any sense. I don't want
Yep.
too much there or not enough. But that question had me thinking you were going down a different road with it. But now it's like, wait, I missed that thought.
Feel free to go back to where you were going.
I was like, wait. But again, just making certain that you're covering your basics of kind of your past experiences, and then just that consistency, because dates are often off, and this is not included here because I didn't think it was important. And I'm telling you, people want to know that you've worked, and people are like, but I worked at a sandwich shop as growing up. Like, wait a second. I love that though, because you've done customer service, you've done all the jobs, you've done, and all the other things unassigned, like Title 13, you've done everything. I love that because it tells me that you aren't afraid when you get put in a situation where you don't know the right answer. You're willing to make it work, and you're willing to make it work on behalf of a customer. So I love those things. And I love when people tell me what the stories were about what they learned along the way. And I also love when people tell me what they learned along the way that didn't work for them. And, somebody might say, you look at my resume and you see that I've had this really great role in consulting. Here's why I haven't enjoyed it. I really thought this was going to be my work, but it hasn't been the work I've enjoyed. And here's my why. Here, I want to do more of the research behind the consulting, but not the front facing consulting. And here's why. I love when people have gotten a sense of, this is not me. It doesn't make me feel good. It's not my best work. I think I can do better work here.
That makes sense. I think that makes sense. Thank you, Diane. This, as always, has been such a fantastic conversation. And I'm really excited for all of the changes that we will make for our LinkedIns, because I know that I will be making these changes, which is very good. But I just wanted to thank everybody for being here today, and just for joining us for this conversation. Again, the questions that y'all provided just bring a depth of and level to this discussion that we couldn't have had otherwise. So I just want to thank you so much for that and for being here today. And I did want to let you know that a recording of the webinar and many others, Diane has so much insight, and we're lucky enough to have like a full library of her information and insights on the Forte website. So just know that you can go there after the session today and rewatch it if you'd like. So with that, we hope to see you at a career coach session really, really soon. We thank you for being here today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Please connect the right way with a message. Please, if you've done it today without one and you've done it, quickly, I understand, but please, going forward, always connect with a very personal message. With that, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you